A few years ago, I found myself in need of a new roommate to share the rent for my apartment. Desperate, I turned to Craigslist, thinking it would be a straightforward process to find a suitable candidate. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent decision would lead to a terrifying and potentially life-threatening experience. After posting an ad, I received several responses, but one stood out. A man named Mark contacted me, claiming to be a recent graduate, polite and with good references. We exchanged a few emails and decided to meet in person to discuss the details. We agreed to meet at a nearby coffee shop. As I walked in, Mark was already seated, his eyes intently fixed on his phone. He looked up when he saw me, and I noticed something unsettling in his gaze. It was a cold, calculating look that sent shivers down my spine. We began discussing the rental arrangement, but the more we talked, the more uneasy I became. Mark seemed overly interested in my daily routine and frequently asked invasive questions about my personal life. Despite my discomfort, I agreed to let him see the apartment, thinking I might be overreacting. A few days later, Mark arrived at the apartment for the viewing. As we walked through the rooms, he made strange comments about the layout and the security of the building. At one point, he even asked about my work hours and whether I often stayed late. Alarm bells rang in my head, but I brushed them off, attributing his odd behavior to social awkwardness. When I suggested he leave so I could think about his application, his demeanor changed instantly. He became agitated, insisting that we finalize the deal immediately. Panic welled up inside me, and I firmly declined his offer. That's when things took a terrifying turn. Mark's pleasant facade vanished. His expression turned menacing. He threatened me, warning that he knew where I lived and that he could make my life a living hell. I was in shock as he left, but I knew I had to take action. I immediately contacted the police and shared all the information I had about Mark, including our email correspondence. It turned out that he had a history of harassing others and had been involved in disturbing incidents before. The authorities took my case seriously, and eventually Mark was arrested. This terrifying experience taught me the importance of being cautious when dealing with strangers online. It was a chilling reminder that the anonymity of the internet can sometimes hide dangerous individuals who can intrude into our lives in the most unsettling ways. I'm grateful that I trusted my instincts and took action before things escalated further, but I'll always remember the fear I felt during that Craigslist encounter. At some point, I had decided to declutter my home and sell some old furniture on Craigslist. It seemed like a convenient way to make some extra cash, but what started as a simple transaction turned into a chilling encounter with a stranger that left me shaken and terrified. I had posted an ad for a vintage dresser I no longer needed, and within hours, I received several inquiries, but one response caught my attention. A man named Alex expressed keen interest in the dresser and was willing to pay my asking price without haggling. It seemed like a dream deal. We agreed to meet in a well-lit public parking lot during the daytime. As I arrived at the designated location, I noticed a beat-up van already parked there. Alex was waiting inside, and as I approached, I couldn't help but feel uneasy about the situation. His appearance was disheveled, and his eyes darted around nervously. We exchanged pleasantries, and I led him to my car, where the dresser was waiting. As we were about to load it into his van, Alex's behavior suddenly became increasingly erratic. He kept glancing around as if expecting someone, and his hands trembled as he counted out the money. As we finished the transaction, he leaned in close and whispered in a hushed, urgent tone, "You have no idea what's at stake here. This dresser means more to me than you can imagine." His words gave me chills. I attempted to distance myself from him, but he persisted, rambling about secrets and hidden compartments within the dresser. It was clear that something was seriously wrong. My instincts screamed at me to get away from this man as quickly as possible. I made an excuse and rushed back to my car, leaving Alex standing there with the dresser. As I glanced in my rearview mirror, I saw him glaring at me with a mix of anger and desperation. The encounter left me shaken, and I couldn't help the feeling that I had narrowly avoided a dangerous situation. Once I got home, I contacted the local authorities and shared all the details about my interaction with Alex. It turned out he had been involved in several incidents that had raised concerns about his mental state. This terrifying experience taught me the importance of prioritizing personal safety, even in seemingly harmless transactions. Some time ago, I was in the market for a used laptop, and I turned to Craigslist, hoping to find a good deal. Little did I know that my quest for a bargain would lead me to a chilling encounter with a stranger. I had come across a listing for a laptop that seemed perfect for my needs. The price was low, and the seller, a person named Sarah, claimed it was in an excellent condition. We agreed to meet in a populated area during the daylight hours, a precaution I thought would ensure my safety. As I arrived at the agreed-upon location, I saw Sarah standing by her car, holding a laptop bag. She looked normal enough, with a friendly smile on her face. However, something about her just didn't sit right. Once I began talking to her, she seemed overly eager, almost desperate to complete the transaction quickly. I greeted her and asked to inspect the laptop. She handed it to me, but as much as I examined it, I noticed that it didn't match the description in the ad. It was older and showed signs of wear and tear. When I pointed this out, Sarah's friendly demeanor vanished, and her face contorted into an angry scowl. She demanded that I buy the laptop, insisting it was the same one she had advertised. Her tone grew increasingly aggressive, and I felt trapped in this tense situation. I knew I had to get out of there, but I was afraid of provoking her further. I agreed to buy the laptop just to defuse the situation. As I handed her the money, she snatched it from my hand and threw the laptop bag at me with a look of seething anger. I quickly retreated to my car, relieved to be leaving the unsettling encounter behind. But as I drove away, my heart still raced. I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I had challenged her more or refused to buy the laptop. Her extreme reaction left me with a deep sense of unease and fear. When I arrived home, I immediately tested the laptop, found that it had several issues. Including a malfunctioning keyboard and a faulty hard drive. It was clear that Sarah had misrepresented the product intentionally, hoping to pressure me into a sale. This chilling experience served as a stark reminder of the importance of caution when dealing with strangers online. I was fortunate to have escaped the situation with only a damaged laptop and a shaken spirit, but I'll never forget the fear I felt during that Craigslist purchase.